ท่านผู้ชมครับช่วง Golf Special ในสัปดาห์นี้นะครับมาพูดถึงอีกหนึ่งเรื่องที่น่าสนใจครับก็คือในเรื่องของการดูลายการพัดใน 3-4 เดือนที่ผ่านมานะครับถ้าท่านผู้ชมสังเกตในทัวร์นะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็น PGA ทัวร์หรือ LPGA ทัวร์ครับก็จะมีการดูลายที่แปลกขึ้นยกตัวอย่างเช่น Adam Scott ครับที่จะมีการดูลายแบบยกนิ้วขึ้นมาครับนั่นก็คือในเรื่องของสถาบัน AimPoint นั่นเองซึ่งวันนี้เราได้รับเกียรตินะครับจากคุณ Steven Giuliano ครับซึ่งเป็น Senior Instructor ของ AimPoint ครับ Hi Steven, how are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for giving us time. So first of all, I want to ask about the AimPoint. What is the AimPoint actually?
Well, AimPoint actually originated as a graphics that appeared on the Golf Channel more than 10 years ago. Mark Sweeney was the pioneer of AimPoint.
Yeah.
And basically, when a player's ball landed on the green, it would show a line which showed the break amount and the aim point.
Okay.
And the evolution is that we then developed that graphics into a green reading system, which firstly was the aim chart, which we've used for quite a long time. We still have tour players now using the aim chart, which is sort of the most accurate read when you're dealing with AimPoint. And recently, I guess just before Christmas last year, we developed the Express Read, which originally was to help juniors read greens more easily.
Okay.
Because the aim chart was a little bit too complicated for them. And that really evolved quite quickly to a point where we now have tour players, as you mentioned, such as Adam Scott, Stacey Lewis, both #1 in the world, coincidentally.
You understand Thai?
Yeah. Using AimPoint with a lot of success. And the tour pros are really coming on board with it. It sort of frees them up to see a break line that perhaps they didn't see before, or at least gives them confirmation of what they do see.
So you start with the TV on the broadcasting show.
Correct.
So at the beginning, when you see the graphic, that's from the AimPoint.
Correct.
So how can you do that? You have to go to measure the green at the competition first.
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, originally it was just technology and graphics. They did laser scan the green, and that's how they're able to get the exact break amount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that in itself wasn't AimPoint as far as how it was taught, but it was just the technology behind it.
Okay.
I guess Mark then came out with a system through by using the chart, where if you knew the green speed, you knew the distance of the putt, and you knew the angle you were putting across, you could then predict the exact break amount.
Okay.
I guess the challenge with that is some players just found there were a few too many components to be able to do during their read, to be able to do it sort of consistently, to be able to do it every time. So I guess the evolution from that again was the Express Read, which we're now using now, which only takes one. We only have one component, one thing that we have to learn in order to read the exact break amount.
Okay. You could call it the
Express Read.
Oh, okay. Express Read. Is this? It's kind of like this one.
Well, the Express Read it is that one.
Okay.
But it really relates to the amount of time it takes to do the read.
Okay.
It's very fast.
Okay.
Very little time invested to learn and to actually take it out into competition.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we see them doing.
All right.
Yeah.
So can you give me a couple names of the example of the player in the tour right now who using the AimPoint, and can you just tell me about their stat a little bit?
Stats.
Yeah.
Well, obviously Adam Scott would be the #1, most well known because it's the men's tour. Obviously the PGA Tour is the biggest tour. Last year he was averaging something around 108 to 110 in putts gained.
Okay.
Which is probably the most common stat now kept on the PGA Tour. And I believe he's now moved into the top 15.
Wow.
He might be something like 14th. Obviously that's pretty huge.
That's almost 100. Yeah.
So he's always been a brilliant ball striker, and certainly his putting has come along in the years, but he's really felt that AimPoint has been one of the key things that has helped him to be a lot more confident in what he sees, and really just take a lot of the stress away from his putting, from the green reading aspect of it, and from the time he takes to actually complete the read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Adam Scott moving, and in LPGA, the #1, actually both #1 player in the world. PGA Tour and LPGA Tour using the AimPoint method right now.
Yeah. The difference with Stacey Lewis is she's been on board with AimPoint, I believe, for over 6 years. Even before we had the chart, or when the sort of chart came out, her caddy's on board with it. And now she kind of uses a hybrid of AimPoint. She will use the chart sometimes. She'll use the Express Read method sometimes, just kind of depending on what green she's playing on or how comfortable she's feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just curious about how you using the method, because I think it's pretty good that we can know the exact line and we can put the brake on.
Correct.
So can you just briefly explain me the method of AimPoint that that you're using?
Well, AimPoint, through the history of it, is always based on figuring out what sort of slope that we're putting across. Understanding where the high and the low area of the putt is,
Okay.
and then really determining the amount of slope that we're putting across from there. So that would be the basis of AimPoint.
Sure. Yeah.
Once we're able to understand what sort of slope we're on,
Okay.
and put a value on that, then there's a certain way that we use our fingers to predict the amount of break that we would be allowing for. With the read. So.
Okay. So let's say we have a slope like from the right to left.
Yeah.
So how can you point the finger to the hole, or what? I don't know how it works.
So with AimPoint Express and even AimPoint in general, it's all feel based.
Yeah.
So we use our feet to feel slope. So there's a way that we step into the putt or we walk into the putt
Okay.
to feel basically side pressure or
Okay.
side tilt. So on a right to left putt that you mentioned,
Yeah.
we're obviously going to feel the pressure on the left side,
Yeah.
and we get students to put a value on that based on some training we do. So for example, they might feel a value of 3. So that would be 3% of slope.
Okay.
And then what we then do is we hold up 3 fingers.
Okay.
So we use the percent.
So the slope you have to calculate to be a percentage.
Correct.
So let's say I feel like right now, maybe my right foot is a little higher than my left, just a little bit. So that might be 1%.
Correct.
So I used only 1 finger.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Whatever value that we feel, we would hold up that amount of fingers to do our aim point or to get the measurement of exactly where we need to aim.
Okay, I see. So I'm just curious. I saw Adam Scott, he always using like, I don't know, 1 or 2 finger, or he actually used more than that.
Well, what you're probably seeing on the PGA Tour, because the greens are a lot quicker, they will tend to run at stimps of 11 or more. The amount of slope in the greens is generally a little bit less.
Oh, okay.
So they're generally dealing with 1 and 2, maybe 3.
Okay.
When you tend to run on slower greens, generally the slopes will get a little bit higher, 4, 5, etc.
What is the variable, like the grain or the slow grain? Or
in Asia, there's a lot more grain. I would say on the PGA Tour, it's a little bit less, depending on what sort of climate they play on. But the main variable will definitely be slope, grain, green speed, which is a stimp of the green.
Okay, so the player have to know that how much the slope it is for the putt, and then how many fingers they have to use.
Correct.
How about the distance? If they putt harder, it's gonna break less.
That's a good question. So with AimPoint, we generally work off a holing speed. If the ball was to miss, of about 6 to 12 inches past the hole,
Okay.
or 30 to 60 centimeters. And we feel that gives the student the best opportunity to make the putt, even if it's not going right into the center of the hole.
Okay.
So if it's still catching the edge, it's going to drop in. And basically, all our calculations from the aim chart are based on that sort of holding speed.
Okay.
So if you are someone that perhaps like to hit your putts a little bit softer, you might allow a little bit more.
Okay.
And vice versa if you like to hit your putts a little bit higher.
Okay.
But we do have a recommended holding speed because we feel that gives the player the best chance of making the putt, gives them the most margin for error, if you like.
So just summarize. So if I feel like this putt is gonna break right to left, and it's only like 1% of slope. So using 1 finger, point to the right edge of the hole.
That's exactly right.
And then where I see my finger, that's where I have to putt to.
Correct. So the right side of your finger is going to take you out a certain amount, and that's where we would target the putt.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so obviously if it's 2 fingers, it'll be more. If it's 3.
Sure, okay.
And one of the key skills with AimPoint is the calibration process or adjusting for different green speeds, which can really only be taught by a certified instructor. But it's very important if you're putting on, say, a stimp of 8, which is quite slow, and perhaps we're on, say, a stimp of 11, it's a completely different area that we would have to stand in, and it's a completely different way that we would hold our arm. So that's probably one of the key secrets, if you like, to doing the express read at the highest level. Okay. But what we spoke about is certainly the basics.
Okay. So today we know pretty much about the AimPoint, but if the golfer right now watching and they want to know more about the AimPoint in Thailand, where should we go to?
Well, you can go to aimpointgolf.asia.
Okay.
We've sort of got information on upcoming classes there.
Thank you very much, Steve. So we learned a lot from you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.